Hello there guys, and I thought that I would probably give a little bit of an update in regards to the campaign that is going on with support Uchu Sentai Kyuranger. And lately, I had been posting a number of different polls on my YouTube page. For a while I had also been doing some polls on Twitter, but it kind of appears that the results on YouTube turn out to be a little better because it appears that quite a lot of people on Twitter have mostly selected the wrong answer to their different to the different polls that I've been posting. A lot of people select the wrong idea, and it appears that YouTube seems to do much better with those various different polls that I had been posting. But anyway, with the polls that I've posted here on YouTube, there have been quite a few that have gotten quite a lot of the votes. Like, I can post a YouTube poll and probably 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 people will vote on the polls, and I am going to point out that I am aware that compared to the entire Power Ranger fan base, 50 people is probably not a lot, and I do understand that, but then again, there aren't a lot of people on Twitter that vote on these polls either. I suppose something I could probably do is actually kind of combine the voters on Twitter and the voters on YouTube and see what's the majority vote would be on those polls. It probably would not really give a real indication about the whole opinion about what Hasbro is doing with Power Rangers right now. Alright, so anyway, I am gonna first off point out about what I think what Hasbro is doing with adapting Ryusoulger could potentially be doing right now. Now, I had been seeing quite a lot of videos posted on YouTube in regards to the ratings on Power Rangers. Hopefully the show can continue on at least long enough for Kyuranger to get its adaptation. But how I see them adapting Ryusoulger right now, it could probably be a way to kind of help to pick up the different views with the dinosaur theme, and maybe help to give Hasbro the budget that they need to get Kyuranger adapted. As of right now, I do not know if Hasbro is ignoring Kyuranger because they are not interested in it, which I hope that they are interested in doing it. I sure hope that they have a good reason for not adapting it right now, which would be that they don't have the budget for it right now, and hopefully their reason for not adapting it is not a bad reason, and bad reasons would be if they were just simply not interested in the space theme, and another even more bad reason for them to not adapt it would, of course, be Kijiki Yellow's visor. Seriously, guys, I never asked for that rumor to even start in the first place, and I really doubt that Hasbro actually sees that as a safety hazard, or at least I hope they don't see it as a safety hazard, as that article, which should have been proven false, had stated, because they can work around that. If they need to make the visor be a little less pointy, or have it be made of a more safe material so it's not that much of a safety hazard, I'm pretty sure that they can do that. That is like a completely lame excuse for them to not adapt Kyuranger just because one Ranger has a pointy visor. Now, if it was a whole series of Rangers that had very pointy visors, then I could understand them not wanting to adapt the series. But if it's just one Ranger, I'm not gonna let that pass. But hopefully Hasbro actually does want to adapt Kyuranger and just isn't able to right now with the budget that they have. And hopefully the Ryusoulger adaptation is going to fix that. But as far as how fans have received the whole news of Ryusoulger getting adapted next, based on the polls that I had been posted, quite a lot of people do agree with me that Hasbro's move to skip right from Beast Morphers to Ryusoulger was a bad move, especially when they are skipping over Kyuranger, which is actually a much more popular Sentai series than Ryusoulger, I should point out. And there are also a lot of fans that think that Kyuranger should have been adapted into a season of Power Rangers much sooner. I think that if they had adapted Kyuranger in 2019, like they really should have, then that would be not that much of a problem. Because I really believe that Kyuranger was on the table for an adaptation before Hasbro came in and said, let's go and adapt Go Busters. Yeah, I really do not care if anyone says, oh, this is just an artist error, or that's just a random use of an image. I really do not care. I am very convinced that Kyuranger was on the table for an adaptation, but if Hasbro states otherwise, then I will go ahead and accept that. But unless they do, I am sticking to Kyuranger was in the plans for getting adapted before, and such plans should have been kept. Now, one of the things that I encourage other fans to do is to write letters to Hasbro, because from what I had heard, there were quite a lot of people who had written about getting Tommy back into the show during Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, such as when he lost his powers as the Green Ranger, letters brought him back, and then when he lost his powers again, Leathers again brought him back as the White Ranger. So if Leathers could work back then, surely they can work now. And I am quite certain that there are quite a number of people right now who are writing to Hasbro and telling them about why they need to get Kyuranger adapted, and probably some people saying how unfair their decision of skipping Kyuranger was, and that they really shouldn't have done that, and that they really should have just adapted that series so that it is then adapted and just out of the way, so they can just go on and adapt the seasons that they find to be more interesting. But they really gotta accept the fact that sometimes it's better to adapt the seasons that the fans actually want than to adapt the seasons that they really want. Now, of course, I am not saying that the amounts of letters are going to, like, totally convince Hasbro to just drop the Ryusoulger adaptation, or at least postpone it in favor of a Kyuranger adaptation. Right now, we don't know if the Ryusoulger adaptation is going to be a single season or 2 seasons, like what we had been getting for the past decade, where we would have 2 seasons of the same team every year. You know, like we would get 1 season with a team, and then we get a 2nd season with that same team, and then we move on to another team after that. Right now we don't know if that's going to be the same case, but if it is just 1 season, that may mean that Ryusoulger is just going to be, well, its adaptation is going to be a very short season. Although again, we don't have any confirmation at the time of the recording of this video if that is the case or not. And some fans have also said, well, maybe they're not adapting Kyuranger because they are working on a good story. Like, they don't want it to be a huge flop like Super Megaforce was. And that could be a possibility, although there are also some people that are like, well, what if the Kyuranger adaptation turns out to be bad? Are you gonna forgive Hasbro then? Well, the answer to that is, as long as a Kyuranger adaptation exists, then I will be settled. And, you know, it may turn out to be a good season, it may not. Nobody knows right now. We don't know what Hasbro is planning on doing. But I certainly hope that it does turn out to be a good adaptation. I am still doing the Adaptation Ideas series. I've already recorded a couple more episodes of that. So far I've only gotten episodes 1 and 2 up, but I do have 3 and 4 already recorded, and episode 5 may be recorded sometime soon, like maybe after I get episode 3 uploaded. I may start the recording of episode 5. I'm not uploading the adaptation idea episodes as soon as I have recorded them. I kind of like to give those videos a little time to get some views, so people can look over those videos and then wait for the next episode of that series to come out. So, as for whether or not Ryusoulger is going to be 1 season or 2, that could probably lead to the possibility of Kyuranger being season 29 or season 30. I really just want that season to get adapted as soon as possible. Although some people say, well, we don't want to rush it. We may want to just have them take their time at it. And if that is the case, I will let them take their time on that. But sometimes I kind of feel like they are just trying to come up with excuses for not adapting it. I mean, I'm not saying that they are, I'm just saying it kind of feels like they are. Yeah, because sometimes it can be pretty hard to believe someone when they say why they aren't or are doing something, but it totally feels like they're not doing it or are doing it for a completely different reason from what they say they are. That's just kind of how I feel right now. Now, do I hope that the letters actually work out? Like, are the letters going to be like, going to convince Hasbro to adapt Kyuranger like after the Ryusoulger adaptation? Although some people could be saying that they want Kyuranger to get adapted as soon as possible. It just depends on how many letters are sent out in time. Although, for all I know, they could start recording episodes for the Ryusoulger adaptation sometime soon. So I'm gonna pretty much let the Ryusoulger adaptation slide, and I will continue to pray that Kyuranger is the next series that we get. I am also going to pray that the next season of Super Sentai after Kyuranger is not another season that will just catch Hasbro's attention and be like, oh, that's a great season, we totally got to adapt that instead of Kyuranger. I am hoping that Toei does not do that. Although Kyuranger does look like it's a pretty good season, but it doesn't look like it could be one that could be done before Kyuranger. And I certainly hope that whatever season of Power Ranger, or whatever season of Super Sentai Hasbro does after the Ryusoulger adaptation, I hope they go back to doing an earlier season instead of just doing some of the newer seasons, because until Kyuranger does get adapted, I am not going to be alright with them just going on to some of the newer seasons, because we really should have gotten Kyuranger by now, and the sooner that Hasbro does adapt Kyuranger, the better. But as I said, they could just be working on getting a good story for the Kyuranger adaptation. Now, there have been some people that have said, oh, Hasbro's not going to be doing any of the older seasons, we're going to be doing newer seasons from now on. That's pretty much just rumor for right now. Hasbro is not confirmed if they're going to be doing this. I certainly hope that they don't do that. I hope that they go back to adapt at least Kyuranger, though. And I know that there are some people that are also going to be like, oh, well, they should adapt Kyuranger or Ryusoulger or Lupin vs. Kyuranger. Well, some of those seasons are a little unlikely to get adapted. It's Kyuranger that I am desperately hoping gets adapted the most. It really should. It's a season that Hasbro cannot pass up, no matter how much they want to. And we, as the fans, need to show Hasbro that Kyuranger has to be adapted at some point in the next few years. So, if you haven't already written to Hasbro about getting Kyuranger adapted, I would highly encourage you to do so. The contact info to Hasbro HQ should be in the description of this video. If you don't know the contact info already for them. And please help to continue supporting Power Rangers and hopefully get that Kyuranger adaptation out sometime within the next 2 or 3 years. Anyway, that is all I have to say. Hopefully we can get Hasbro convinced that Kyuranger should be adapted if they aren't planning on adapting it already. Hopefully we can get them convinced. And I will see you again in my next video.